Chapter 17, March 28th, Cosby Knob Shelter, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Tennessee, North Carolina state line. Miles hiked today, 13. Total miles hiked on the Appalachian Trail, 216.5. Weather, sunny, no breeze, warmer, mid-60s. We arrived at the Cosby Knob Shelter on our last night in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park to find a troop of Girl Scouts had taken it over. You would think that since there are campgrounds scattered throughout the Smokies, Girl Scouts would use them instead of the shelters designed for through hikers. You would think that if they decided to stay in a shelter, they would show consideration for people who are obviously on the trail for more than a weekend and not perhaps take over the entire thing. You would be wrong. They built a big fire and spread their mess all over the one picnic table. They tore branches off trees to use as hot dog roasting sticks. They did not notice when half a dozen through hikers muttered angry words in their general direction, packed up their gear, and left. They were lively Girl Scouts. They sang a song about squashing bumblebees. Mom and Vivi and I were not exhausted, but we were tired. We finished our dinner right about the time the Girl Scouts started theirs, and now we wanted to sleep. How far to the next shelter, Mom said, eyeing the troop. 8 miles, I said back. Mom groaned. We couldn't go that much further. We'd be walking until midnight, but in the park you weren't supposed to set up tents away from the shelters. We could maybe a half mile, I said. Mom shook her head. Better not. The Girl Scouts gathered around their campfire, began another song. Vivi grinned. If you need something for earplugs, I've got clean socks. We set up our tents on the edge of the cleared area and climbed in. I'd gotten used to sleeping in shelters with strangers. I'd gotten used to the weird smells and the weirder noises, grunts, whistles, and the scampering of mice in the dark. I had not gotten used to Girl Scouts singing. I got out of my tent and walked over to the fire. I had planned to say, politely, something like, would you mind keeping it down a bit? Those of us who are serious hikers are trying to sleep. But as I approached the group, I realized two things, and I held back. The other girls were my own age, and they all looked happy. One of them noticed me. Hi, she said, her ponytail swung perkily. You aren't lost or anything, are you? Is your troop somewhere around? I was wearing a short sleeve t-shirt over a long sleeve t-shirt and the tights I usually slept in. I'd hiked all day, several days actually, in both shirts and hadn't taken either one off, and I'd gotten into my sleeping bag. The hike in had been our last laundry opportunity, and these were the cleanest clothes I owned. I'm with my mom, I said. We're camping in those tents over there. I pointed to the dim light. Neat, said the perky girl. I wish my mom would come hiking. I just love it. Don't you? I love camping out. I love the shelter. We walked almost 4 miles from the Cosby campground to get here. We had to carry all our food and everything. I nodded. I've gotten kind of used to that, I said. We're hiking the Appalachian Trail. Perky girl nodded. Uh-huh. How long is that? She asked. A few of the others looked up, and an adult who was with them saw me and started to walk over. I looked at the loaded picnic table. They'd brought food enough for an army. How they carried it 4 miles was a mystery. 2,167 miles, I said. Chocolate. They had chocolate on the table and marshmallows and graham crackers. Perky girl started to nod again and then made a choking noise and looked up at me, thunderstruck. 2,000? She said. I said, I've done 200 so far. They seemed like nice people, and not just because they were interested in me. They gave off a friendly aura. You must be a through hiker, said the adult, who I guessed was the troop leader. which I suppose should have been the cue I needed to say, yes, and so are the other people who might have enjoyed this shelter, but are sleeping in tents because you took it, and who are being kept awake by your thoughtless giggles and noise. But once again, I was stopped by two things: the thought that they did get to the shelter first, and so didn't kick anyone out of it, and the s'mores shoved in my hand by Perky Girl. "You must be starving," she said, wide-eyed. "Come, sit by the fire." When I weighed myself on the hiker scales back in Wallacee, fully clothed and needle-covered just below 105. "Good God," my mother said, "you're already losing weight." She gave me a speech about a number of calories consumed by walking up and down mountains carrying 30 pounds on your back for 8 hours every day. "I'm eating," I said. "You know I am." She did know. "You're going to have to eat more," she said. The truth was, I was almost always hungry. 2 hours after eating an enormous meal, I was hungry again. I had never been heavy, but now my pants hung loose and my hip bones chafed against the pack belt. And my mom reminded me often. We still had a long walk to go. So I ate and ate and ate. Lots on the trail and even more and more at every town. That night around the Girl Scout fire, I had over a dozen s'mores. I think there was half a chocolate bar in each. They were delicious. The Girl Scouts all seemed interested in hearing about my hike. They told me about their troop and the town they came from, the school they went to, how much hiking they did every year. I said, my mom and I were taking some time away. I did not say what we were getting away from. I looked toward the tent, and there was Mom, rubbing her eyes sleepily as she approached us. I got up to go. The troop leader introduced herself to Mom, and before I knew it, I was eating yet another s'mores while 3 of the Girl Scouts toasted marshmallows for Mom. The fire flickered, and the chocolate tasted smooth in my mouth. Mom sat down on a log near the fire. I sat down on the ground beside her and leaned against her legs. She pulled my hair back from my face with both hands. The warmth from the fire felt like a blanket around us. In the morning, the Girl Scouts slept late while we intrepid thru-hikers types pushed out early. There were several people in the tents on the fringes of the woods. One woman whom I had seen for several days running but never spoken to gave me a nasty look when I ran into her at the spring. "Why is it you can talk to those scouts half the night and ignore the rest of us?" she said. Would it kill you to be friendly?" I blinked. Mom and I kept to ourselves, sure. Why should anyone care? "I suppose it would depend on who was friendly with me," I said. "Well, I guess," she said irritably, "I don't suppose you'd have anything to fear from me." "Except that I might catch your attitude, you old bat," I thought. I said, "There aren't many people out here like me." Solitary, you mean? Hermits in the woods?" 12, I said. The woman nearly dropped her water. "Oh, wow. Are you? Well, no wonder you don't talk much. I suppose. I never knew a 12-year-old who did. But I'm surprised at your mother. You'd think she'd be dying for a chat after a long walk all day. I know I am. I never thought I'd hear anything as quiet as these woods. Have you ever seen such a place for being by yourself all the time? I know I haven't. When I get to town, I head straight for the busiest place I can find. I just want to hear words so bad. I miss television. Don't you? You must, a kid like you. What was your mother thinking dragging you on this kind of trip? You must be plumb miserable." By this point, we were back near the shelter. I said, "The trip was my idea," and dove into my tent. I'd hoped she'd leave. Instead, she introduced herself to Mom. "Flutter, that's my trail name. Some men I hiked with the first week gave it to me. Don't know why. They were in some kind of hurry. They went on ahead." The next thing I knew, she was offering to hike with us and pool our food for lunch. I know I'm sick and tired of everything that's in my pack. I bet you're sick and tired of everything in yours. We could share, just like grade school. I shot out of my tent and started sending Mom signals behind Flutter's back and mouthing, "No, no, Mom, say no." Mom said, "Oh, shoot," with such vehemence that sounded like a swear. "What's that?" Flutter said, licking her lips nervously. "We can't do that. I'm sorry." She turned to me and said, "Pack up fast, Danny. We've got to run." I packed up fast. When we were all well underway, with a dazed-looking Flutter left behind us, I asked, "Why are we in such a hurry?" "Because," Mom said, "if I have to share the washing machine at Mountain Mama's with that nitwit, I will lose my mind." "But we lost Vivi," I said. "We did not. She had her tent down already. She'll be up with us by lunch."